Speaking, read aloud, guided practice. Let's begin this session. Here's your first question. Let me play the sample response for you.
The Office of Personnel Management was the target of the attack, but data from nearly every government agency was stolen. U.S. investigators say they believe Chinese hackers were behind the breach. The lack of any conclusive evidence, though, weakens their argument. Many people have in fact started questioning the intentions of the U.S. government itself.
This seems like a simple enough text. For something this long, you probably will get 30 seconds to rehearse. And as soon as you see the text on the screen, you start rehearsing. And the steps are, the first step is you see where the commas are, where the full stops are, because that's where you're going to pause. After that, try to see if there is any longer sentence without any comma, because then you need to figure out where you will pause in that sentence. For example, in this last one, many people have in fact started questioning the intentions of the US government itself. So you can speak this like many people have in fact started questioning the intentions of the US government itself. Or many people have in fact started what? Questioning the intentions of the US government itself. So there are a couple of ways you can break this, and either would be fine, because our focus is on sounding natural and on demonstrating that we understand how the various parts of the sentence are linked to each other, that we are actually understanding what we speak. So after you decide where to chunk, the next is some words where you will put your emphasis on. For example, data from nearly every government agency. So nearly every, that's where you can pause. Lack of any conclusive evidence. So at conclusive, you can pause. And I think just a couple of these are enough for a sentence of this length, for a text of this length. Next, pay attention to your intonation. And as I said, once you've identified where you're emphasizing, those are also the places where you can raise your tone. And the other simple rule, wherever you're pausing. So where we pause, when we come to a comma and when we come to a full stop, that is when we complete a statement, make a statement. Then again, as you come towards a comma or a full stop, that's again where you can lower your tone, because you will be pausing. Just like when you're driving a car and you want to stop it, you stop it gradually. Similarly, when speaking, you have to pause. You have to bring your tone down gradually, and that is what intonation is all about. After that, see if there are any words that you find difficult here. Conclusive, for example. And if there is any word that seems difficult or unfamiliar, then decide what to do with that. Either say a simple word in place of that, or just skip it. Once done, then you're ready. Simply start speaking. That's all. Shall we go to the next question then? All right, here we go. Now let me play the sample response for you.
Certain types of methodology are more suitable for some research projects than others. For example, the use of questionnaires and surveys is more suitable for quantitative research, whereas interviews and focus groups are more often used for qualitative research purposes.
Simple text, isn't it? And the steps. The first is you break this into chunks, full stops here, comma, then immediately you can see and here. It's a longer sentence. The second sentence actually is quite long. For example, you pause at the comma. The use of questionnaires and surveys, you pause at and, is more suitable for quantitative research, whereas interviews and focus groups are more often used for qualitative research purposes. You can also pause at whereas, because after and it is 3, 6, 7, 8 words. I think that's a good enough point. Or you can speak it like this. For example, the use of questionnaires and surveys is more suitable for quantitative research, whereas interviews and focus groups are more often used for qualitative research purposes. Or you can speak all of that in one go and then pause after focus groups, because that is also a logical place, as that's where you are telling about where these interviews and focus groups are used. So wherever when reading the text, it seems natural to you, that's the best place to pause. You might be thinking that in the exam there's not enough time. So how do I decide whether this place is right or that place is right? As we have seen in the examples, often there are a couple of ways you can speak, and they'll both be fine for the purpose of PTE. But this actually comes to you subconsciously when you practice more. Any practice question you do, make sure that you listen to the sample response, because that's the best way to learn. And also every day, spend some time reading English text, listening to English audio. And once you do that, your mind will pick it up and you'll automatically know where to pause, the best place, right? The method, these are like the guidelines to get you started. And as they say, you first learn the rules and then after that, you can break the rules. Once you are confident, once those rules, they become a subconscious nature to you, that's when you don't think of those rules again. Okay, so break into chunks, then identify some words for emphasis. Certain types of methodology are more suitable. So more suitable, for example, the use of questionnaires and surveys is more suitable for quantitative research, whereas interviews and focus groups are more often used for qualitative research purposes. So qualitative, I think it'll be a good place. Now, as we discussed earlier, make sure that there's a bit of a gap between the words where you put emphasis on. So that's a useful tip. For example, you speak like, and focus groups are more often used for qualitative. So you see, you are putting a deliberate stress on every second or third word. And that doesn't sound very natural, interesting. Avoid that. After that, wherever you've decided to put emphasis on the adjectives, etc., the important words, that's where you raise your tone. At the pauses, you lower your tone. And when you begin speaking, that's when you raise your tone. So take care of intonation. After that, identify, have a look at any difficult words. Quantitative. If you can't speak quantitative, maybe you can speak quantity or quant. Just say quant. If you can't even do that, then skip. Suitable for research, that's fine. But keep it in mind, you don't have to get stuck. It's one thing to make a mistake and then quickly correct yourself and move on. But if you linger on, if you just get stuck, then first of all, you will waste too many seconds, your time, and then it will have a big impact, a poor impact on your fluency, which we want to avoid. All right, so now with that preparation, you can start speaking and you will be fine. Time for the next question. Here we go. Let me now play the sample response.
In the fast changing world of modern healthcare, the job of a doctor is more and more like the job of a chief executive. The people who run hospitals and physicians' practices don't just need to know medicine, they must also be able to balance budgets, motivate a large and diverse staff, and make difficult marketing and legal decisions.
I'm sure you have been able to easily answer this question. And the first step, rehearsing. And in that, where to pause? Immediately the commas and the full stops. These are the places where you will. Now this larger sentence, the people who run hospitals and physicians practices don't just need to know medicine. So where can you pause? One place is, as we have discussed earlier, when you see an and, so you can say the people who run hospitals and physicians practices don't just need to know medicine. Or if you see, the first part is this, the people who run hospitals and physicians practices. And what does the rest of the sentence say about these people? That they don't just need to know medicine. So that's also a logical break. Either of these two places would be fine. After that, where will you put emphasis? Modern, difficult, large, and diverse. So those adjectives are the ones where you will put your emphasis on. And immediately when you know that this is where I'm putting stress, you also know that. How are you showing the stress? You're showing that by raising your tone. So take care of the intonation and the commas and the full stops. The final step, are there any difficult words here? Do you think there's any word that's difficult? If it is, then just practice it or decide to skip it. And then when you hear the tone and the microphone opens up, go ahead and speak confidently. All right, let's look at the last practice question in this session now. Let me play the sample response for you now.
Integration is increasingly needed in the business environment. This need emerges from the efficiency and synergy requirements necessary in a complex and turbulent environment. In other words, integration is needed to facilitate coordination, which is again related to the building of competitive advantage.
Okay, small and simple enough text. Full stop. This is where I will pause. Again, a full stop. This is where I'll pause. A comma. This is where I'll pause. And the second sentence, this need emerges from the efficiency and synergy requirements necessary in a complex and turbulent environment. It's long enough, so I decide that at this and again, I'll pause for a little bit. And where can I put emphasis on? In a complex and turbulent, yeah, that, and competitive. I think two are enough for a text of this length, and also those are the places where I will raise my tone. All right, and any difficult words here? They're not too difficult, but some of you might be unfamiliar. Words like synergy, turbulent, then you just make your best guess or decide to skip it. As simple as that. And if you have done enough practice, gone through the word list and also done your daily reading, then the chances of finding words that you're totally unfamiliar with, they're very small. And even if you have to, it won't be more than a word or two words in a text. And that you can handle, provided you do well in other parts of the question and in other questions in the speaking section. So then you're ready and you go ahead and deliver your response. As I mentioned earlier, these guided practice sessions, they are to reinforce the concepts So that's why we look at the steps again and again. And once done that, you must practice on your own in the practice test software.